So, when I was a kid, and I started drawing like everybody does in kindergarten and first grade, and by second grade, I'd gotten to be pretty good, and I entered a contest in the local newspaper with one of my drawings. I will never forget it. It was a fire engine, and it was printed in the newspaper, and that was fabulous. And so in the second grade, I started doing a lot of drawing, and my second grade teacher gave me all kinds of positive reinforcement. And so she was really a young, good-looking blonde, and I fell in love with her. So I was going to be an artist, and when I was around 9 or 10, my parents sent me to art school in the summertime, and some of these drawings right here, these horses, are from that time. I saved all my drawings. I got an A-. It says very good. And it says outline could be darkened in spots, I said for Ken Smith. And then I have, in addition to these, I got a whole bunch of them. I saved all my drawings from when I was 10 years old. There's this one over here I really like because it's quite complicated.
He's leaping a fence.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's a bucking bronco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a mysterious woman looking on.
Yeah, so that's how I started. But my mother dissuaded me from art, told me that I'd starve to death, and so as time went on, I got interested in girls, and then I was at other kinds of things, and I just dropped it altogether. So it wasn't until just about 15, 20 years ago when I was living in New York, and on my way to the Central Park, I lived on Park Avenue, and on my way to Central Park, I would pass the National Academy of Design, Fine Arts and Design. And I knew they had classes there because I'd stop and read the posters and so forth and so on. So I thought, maybe I should take some classes. And so I started taking classes, and for 5 years I did only figure drawing, life drawing. So it turns out that's a classic way to learn to draw, because they make all these funny poses and stuff, and then you have to make sure that you've got the length of the forearm is not too dissimilar from the upper arm and so forth.
Proportion.
Yeah, and once you can do that, you can do anything, I found. And then I could go on to landscapes and still lifes, and then ultimately went on to portraits, which I've been doing recently. But I have one life drawing that I want to show you.
Absolutely.
I've got it in the closet right now, because I ran out of space. My wife won't let me put them into the public spaces. So let's see if I can get it out of here without upsetting everything. Okay, let's see. Oops.
Oh yeah.
So this was at the end of one of my classes, and so they had a student art exhibit, which was juried.
Yeah.
And so I did this. This is a pencil drawing, and you start out with 5-second poses, and then 10 seconds, and then so forth. You work your way up towards the end of the class, a 3-hour class, to 20 and 30-minute poses. And when you get to that, the model always lies down, and so I did this. So first of all, this model laid down in front of me with her bottom up in my face, and then after that pose was done, she flipped over. So being a biologist, I named this dorsal ventral. And it got into the show. I was so proud that it was into the show, because there were all kinds of artists in many different
skill levels
yeah. And so forth. And I went there after it was hung, and I went and talked to the secretary of the institute, and she said, well, that the workers who hung the show came to me, and they voted yours the best in show. So when I moved down to Sarasota, Florida, I started taking classes at the art center in Sarasota, and I took still lives and other kinds of things, and I started in on pastels. And I really wanted to do portraits because I I had sort of thought that portraits were more difficult than anything else, and if I could do that, then I could hopefully progress on. And so what I've on the walls on my studio now, I've got some of my more recent portraits. This one on the bottom here is one of my former professors, Georges Maté, who was the director of the institute that I worked in the early 70s. And then up above that is a portrait of me when I was 15, and I'm working on my soapbox derby race car right there, oiling the wheels before the next race. And then this one over here is one of my favorites, which is it's a portrait of my wife Lynn when we were in France, and she's in we were in a French cafe, and she was. I guess that's all I have to say from it.